Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, elves and dwarves, and most importantly, fellow readers, welcome to the Reading Rambles Show. Absolutely no relation with the Gaming Rambles YouTube channel. Yeah, obviously it's been a long time since I was on the internet and making content, but here I am, I'm back, and I went on a bit of a reading audiobook frenzy. So yeah, I have a lot to talk about. Which is why I started this YouTube channel. May or may not have started it to self-promote my own book, you know, a little shameless plug right there. But well, you know, we'll get to that when I finally publish it. So yeah, obviously I started a YouTube channel to review books, and I figured I'd start us off with an absolute banger. I love this genre of books, by the way. Like, it's just my comfort genre. I can come home, put in the earbuds, play some video games, and just listen to some LITRPG. It doesn't stress me out like fantasy, like the plot of The Lies of Locke Lamora. Or, well, a couple of these books do, but for the most part, these books don't make me sad like Joe Abercrombie does. You know what I'm saying? So I really enjoy this genre. I didn't even know about this genre until about a year ago, and now I'm obsessed with it, and I listen to these books all the time. All right, so before we get started, I should probably clarify that I am a fake book talker. I don't actually read, guys. I'm completely illiterate. I don't know how to. So, okay, no, for real though. I'm in the army. I usually work like 12-hour shifts. When I get home, man, I don't have the time, energy, or natural illumination to want to read a physical book. And I used to love reading, like actually reading. But now, you know, I pretty much exclusively listen to audiobooks. And I know. I'm sorry, guys. It is what it is. But unfortunately, that has changed my opinion of some of these book series, where they might have become more enjoyable if I hadn't listened to the audiobook, with like one or two exceptions where the audiobook like improved the experience. So yeah, to start us off, we're just gonna throw these four down here. We're not gonna talk about these today, you know. Yeah, but hey, for real though, if y'all want me to ramble about smut books, or just joke about them, or laugh about the stupid tropes that appear in all of them, maybe make a bingo card of smut tropes, like, just let me know, man. I would love to just joke around and goof around and talk about these books. But yeah, you know, we're not going to talk about that anymore. And now we're getting on to the meat and potatoes, the real players in this genre. Some of these are big, some of these are like, you know, they're not that big. And I got things to say about all of them. All right, we're starting off strong here from left to right, going on Defiance of the Fall by J.F. Brink. This book series is fantastic. I love the protagonist. I love the side characters. Okay, so when I was rating these, I went off 6 categories. I went off the plot, and that has to do with like the stakes involved too. The main character, the side characters, you know, like how likable they are, how they interact with each other. The romance, you know, because, you know, I've been listening to a lot of Brandon Sanderson lately. You gotta sprinkle a little bit of romance in there, you know, really, it increases the vibe. I didn't really feel that way until I finished Red Rising. And I was like, yeah, the romance like kept me on my toes for this whole book series. I was just hooked on what was going to happen with Mustang. Yeah, okay, so now I really care about romance being in books now. Finally, just like the actual progression. Like, is the progression enjoyable, you know? Anyway, Defiance of the Fall just kind of crushes all those categories. Like, does really, really well. I'm going to put it at a high A tier just because the progression it's really been slowing down lately. You know, the last 3 books, it was just a training montage for the most part. It was just a training montage with a lot of politics sprinkled in about him like leveling up to the next tier. And he finally did it. Oh, thank God, in the last book that came out. But it was like, that's the frustrating thing. If I had made this tier list after finishing book 5, this would be S tier. Absolutely, no questions. Because book 5 was just insane. Like, a whole bunch of plots were interweaving. There was a whole bunch going on. Like, you didn't know if the characters they were fighting and killing, the NPCs, were like actually human and had consciousnesses. Like, it was good stuff. I mean, it's literally at the top of A tier, so close to S tier. If the series hadn't like kind of slowed down in pacing, it would be S tier, easy. So yeah, starting off strong. All right, Dungeon Lord. This premise is weird. I think I'm gonna put it in mid because the main character is likable. You know, that, unfortunately, that's where a lot of the C tier books suffer. I think I'm starting to get burnout with this genre, and this was the last book I read, And I just like the plot wasn't bad, you know. I like the characters for the most part. The plot's going somewhere. I wasn't getting into it that much, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, comfortably in mid. If you're a huge fan of this genre, I would highly recommend this book. All right, okay. Now we're getting into the weird stuff with dissonance. Oh no, why did I put the worst ones first? Oh gosh. So this one's so frustrating because I got through like 7 or 8 of these books, and I did like them, but there were just so many things that were bothering me about the book. The pacing just feels so weird at the end of all these books, and it only worked for like 1 or 2 of them. Like, all the others, it felt like the pacing at the end of those first 3 books in the Wheel of Time series, where like everything happens at the end, and like a couple unexplained concepts show up, and I don't know, the pacing just felt weird. Another problem that this book had, I don't even know what to call this. I think it's a trope. I've only seen it in 2 books so far, but I see it a lot in Hollywood, where there's a gay side character, and they've got there's a gay romance going on, and the side character is like, they're human, they have flaws, but their romance partner is perfect. Literally the perfect guy, has no flaws whatsoever. And it's just like, dude, where are you finding these people? These people aren't real. It's like, it's just weird. Like, I expect it in these books. I don't expect it in like these. You know what I'm saying? But I could overlook all of that if it weren't for these last 2 problems I had with the book series. The romance between the main character and the main side character is terrible. It is so bad. The main character is so cringe and so hesitant, reluctant to ask this character out. And they've literally saved each other's lives like 20 times at this point. And it took him until like book 8 to finally ask out the main female. And she clearly likes him. It was like one of the fans held a gun to the author's head. It was like, dude, you have to put a romance option in this book. And the author was just dragging their feet for 5 books. It was finally like, you know what? Fine, I'll do it, but it's not gonna be fun. You know, it's so bad. So that's the first like really big nail in the coffin. And the second one is that it's an audiobook. And it's so sad because if it wasn't an audiobook, I would probably like the series more. Like Travis Baldree, and it's funny because he crushes so many of these other series later on. Like the other 3 that he appears in, he just absolutely crushes them. But for this series, he doesn't do the author any favors. You know, there'll be like a monster that shows up at one point in a scene, and the monster sounds like this with everything they say. It is the most disgusting voice imaginable, and like they'll crank it up to like a 12. You know, Travis Baldree will just crank it up to a 12. I get it, you're flexing on us, man, but you gotta stop. Audiobook narrators everywhere, please stop making your monsters like so awful to listen to. I can't deal with it anymore, man. And he must do this for like 4 or 5 of the big bads across this book series. And then another thing, the way the series is written is really bad for an audiobook experience. They'll be like, they get ambushed by a monster or some like crazy bird or something like that. And instead of the book just saying, you know, they turned the corner and then suddenly there were 4 enemies ready to attack them, or, you know, something along those lines, it'll just go, squaw! I shit you not. I swear it's like Travis Baldree was trying to kill this book series, man. So it's so sad. You know, I feel like if I read hardcovers of this would be A tier. Definitely not S tier, but it's like, it's a really good plot, especially like the first 3. Like the world building is exciting. But man, oh gosh. Yeah, anyway, I just had problems with it. You know, maybe I'll be more generous and put it in low A tier, but I didn't finish this series. Like I still haven't bought the Uncrowned book. I'd rather listen to this other stuff. Oh, shit, rather listen to Smut. Anyway, moving on. We finally made it to the worst book on this list, and it's not. Unfortunately, it is kind of close, but it shouldn't be. It shouldn't be, because this is just so bad, and it's sad because it starts off so strong. Something happens with his like augmentware in the video game MMO that he's obsessed with, and now he's like stuck there. It gets even better because like his main buddy betrays him and turns him into a mob, and then he respawns in a mob settlement on a corner of the map that no one's ever seen. And it's actually like a super cool premise. It's like, oh shit, you got a great premise, you got a good revenge story lined up, you can't screw this up. Boy did this author screw this up, man. He managed to create the most unlikable character I have ever dealt with. So there is some debate in the literary world whether or not you even need to make your characters likable. Like, they all have to have flaws or they just feel two-dimensional. But some authors like don't even care about making the characters likable so long as they're interesting. But here's the thing, man. If the character's not likable or they don't have like some redeeming traits, something that makes them exciting enough for me to want to watch them, that is a huge ick for me, man. Like, I can't get over it. And the only thing that'll keep me going is if I believe in the author already, like Brandon Sanderson, for instance, in The Nightmare Painter. I hated both of those protagonists for the first 15 chapters. And, you know, I believe that the book would eventually redeem itself later on. Or I have heard so many good things about the book series that I want to continue it because I've heard that it's just fantastic later on. And my example for this second option is the Sun Eater series. I completely hated Hadrian in the first book. Like, I hated him with a burning passion. I struggled to finish Empire of Silence. But I've heard such great things about the book series that I plowed through it, and I'm gonna keep listening to it. But this guy he is just on another level, like just self-sabotaging himself, and it's just so annoying. Jeff Hayes, he falls into the same trap as Travis Baldtree in this book series, where he doesn't do the author any favors because the author's playing as a goblin and he's stuck as a goblin. So 90% of the dialogue you hear is goblin talk. He talks like this and he'll get really mad. And you, and you have to listen to, not only is he just not a likable character, but you have to listen to him talk like this all the time. And you're just like, dude, stop, please. And you know, maybe if this wasn't an audiobook and I had just read it, I might have been able to finish it. But it's just so sad. It's just so sad. Jeff Hayes, and he's such a good narrator. He did not do this book any favors, man. Oh, man. So yeah, I made it for the first 2 books. I think there's like 6 books in the series, but I have no intention of finishing the series. That's a DNF. Oh, all right. Finally, we have made it to the crown jewel. I think it's only fair that we go from the worst book in this tier list to the absolute best, the absolute banger. This one, remember those 6 categories I was talking about earlier? This one dominated all of them. All of them. It's not even close. Like maybe here and there it's a little trophy. Who cares, man? I love this series. It was so unbelievably good. The stakes are high. The characters are likable. The main character is super cool and likable. Not cringe. The romance is good. It's believable. It's charming. It's Ethan Aurelius is the best side character I have ever seen. He might be my favorite character in fiction, period. I loved every single scene with this guy, and I honestly thought it was sad that none of the other characters in the book series liked him as much as I did. Oh, it was just such a good book series. I was sad when it was over. All right, boys, I think we're late enough into the YouTube video where we can unveil this for YouTube. But yeah, finally, we have the tip of the top of the S tier category, baby. And it's like, if you have any interest in progression book series, lit RPGs, I would highly recommend this book series, the Cradle book series. So good. So good. Oh, it's so good. Whew. All right. And we got another banger, baby. Let's go. Primal Hunter, also S tier. Now, if this book had stopped at like book 4, I would put it at low A tier. It would be below Defiance of the Fall. And Defiance of the Fall would probably take its spot too. But because book 1 was really good, the stakes were really high. They end up in this like crazy tutorial realm, and a lot of shit happens. Like a lot of gods intervene. It's good. It's really good. Book 2, 3, 4 are kind of slow. They're a little mid. I wasn't really feeling it. Like, it wasn't bad by any means, you know, still great, but it wasn't like S tier, cream of the crop, baby. Oh yeah. But book 5, oh boy, that fight scene at the end of book 5. It was so good, baby. I'm telling you. And then book 6, book 7, book 8, all bangers. And so it's like, man, Zogarth, he hasn't slowed down. He hasn't slowed down in the book series. It's so good. It's so good. All right, moving on to something more mediocre. We have The Ritualist, the first book of the Completionist Chronicles by Dakota Crowell. I am going to put this in mid, you know, and it's not bad. You know, it's just mid. You know, I enjoyed the first book. The plot was pretty good. It doesn't take place in the real world. It takes place in an MMO. So you're already off on a low point if you do that. And so the main character, he was like mutilated in some accident, and so he implanted his consciousness into this game, and now he's here like 24/7. And it's like, it's kind of cool because his stakes are higher, but it also just feels like stilted when he has conversations with the other characters because there's no romance going on, and all the other characters are like people in their 40s who are like, okay, I'm gonna log off now and hang out with my wife and kids. It's like, oh dude, yo, that's kind of sad. And Dakota's just over here like, well, I guess I'll find some more books in this library. You know, it's like, I don't know, it's kind of sad, and not in like a engaging way. It's just sad. But you know, the book was okay. The plot was pretty good, and I like Dakota Kraut because he's military. I'm military, and he gets it. You know, like, okay, so they're in this video game where, you know, they have like pain receptors and stuff like that, you know, because it's like advanced technology. So you'll have tanks getting eaten alive by wolves, and then they respawn and they're good to go, even though they were just eaten alive. The world building explains this to the main character by saying like, oh yeah, they just mess with their hormones so that they aren't scarred for life from that experience, which is actually a really nice touch, because a lot of these other books just don't think about how traumatizing it is to get eaten alive, and then like, oh hey, you know, you're back at it, baby. It's time for round 2. So yeah, it's a nice touch. You know, I definitely plan to come back to this series, so I'm not like turned off like I am with Life Reset. All right, System Universe by Sunrise CV. I have mixed feelings about this one because it's good, it's incredibly wholesome, but it's also kind of boring. And I think Sunrise CV, some people go for pen names, and other people are just like, fuck it, we're using a gamer tag, baby. So Sunrise CV, man, dude, the thing about this, it's hard to rank this one because he's trying to like subvert tropes throughout the series. I would put this as low A tier. And like, if you're having burnout with lit RPGs, like, yeah, I would check out System Universe. It's pretty wholesome. He doesn't like, he'll have you thinking like, oh, hey, we're about to go into like a romance arc. And then he'll just be like, nope, you know, and face palm, hey, get away from me. The main character is just not having it. And, you know, it is what it is. So the premise is the guy starts in our world, basically. And, you know, there's a multiverse going on. He's one of the strongest people now on the planet. And then something happens. He gets sucked out of the world, and he ends up in a totally different multiverse and is able to scale off of their system on top of being able to keep all the stats that he already has. And it basically just allows him to subvert the entire power structure in the kingdom that he ends up in, because he ends up in like a medieval fantasy land for whatever reason. And now he's like the toughest guy there. And so he subverts the power structure. And instead of like lording it over people, he, you know, he helps like people weaker than him level up and stuff. So it's pretty wholesome. Definitely recommend it. You know, it's a good time. All right. Kyle Kieran, Shadeslinger, the first book of the Ripple system. I think there's 5 books out for this now, and I have only finished 2 of them, but I'm on the 3rd one. And I would put this as, I really thought it was going to be mid. I really thought so, because this suffers from the same problem as a couple of these others, especially the Ritualist, where it takes place in an MMO. It's not the real world. If you die, you just lose a little bit of street cred. I know for some people that's like, oh man, I can't imagine my guild being ashamed of me. You know what I mean? But I just cannot relate. So yeah, for me, maybe for some people, these are enough stakes, but for me, it's like the stakes are too low in this series compared to the rest of the genre. That being said, the main character is actually pretty likable. He starts out as the super rich guy who buys all of the pretrial slots in this MMO that he's in. And so it seems like, I was like, Kyle, my boy, that is a bold choice for your main character right off the bat. I was like, I was worried. I'm not going to like this character. But he grows on you, and he's really awkward, and in a charming Travis Baltree kind of way. Travis Baltree narrates this one like he does for like most of these. And he nails this one. So it's pretty good. The real saving grace for this book series, and what puts it in it great, is the side character banter. The talking acts that he has is just so funny. And the banter that they have going on with each other, I mean, it feels like you're watching an episode of Psych. It's that good. Like, the banter's chef's kiss. So yeah, good stuff. And I definitely, this is one of those series where, you know, it's low stakes, it's chill, the banter's great. It's something I just like, I listen to when I'm just like, I just need to chill out. I'm just like, you know, playing a video game, just have a good time. All right. I was dreading this one. He Who Fights with Monsters. Bam. It's going right here. You know what? It's better. It's significantly better than this protagonist. No, the protagonists are honestly just as unlikable. But this book series is so much better. It's so sad. And I'm worried that Shirtaloon thinks that he's like this main character and he's like putting himself in this main character's position. Because that's so cringe. And it's so sad because Shirtaloon's crushing the rest of this book series. The world building, fire. The side characters, fire. They're all great. The progression's fun. Like the scaling is fun. The battles are fun. The fighting's fun. I mean, there's romance too, and it's not cringe either. The only part that's killing this book series is the main character. The main character won't shut up. The main character is just so annoying. He won't stop talking. What if instead of debating college students on campus, Ben Shapiro showed up to a middle school and just started debating middle schoolers and no one interrupted him? That's the other thing. This main character, he'll just go on and on and on about people who outrank him and none of them interrupt him. None of them ever go, shut the hell up. You know, like, that's what would happen in real life. They would interrupt him, and if they couldn't interrupt him because he kept talking over them, they would just kill him. You know, and it's like the fact that hasn't happened by book 4 is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I remember thinking, like, at what point did I become disillusioned with this book series? Yeah, honestly, probably the first book. I remember thinking, like, dude, this book series is so good, but this main character won't shut up. And that was just book 1. It was just book 1. And it's so sad because the series has so much potential. And if Shirtaloon writes another series, I will definitely tune in, you know, because he's a good author. It's just this main character is just, if the main character just was mute or you just reduce the word count of the main character by like 2,000. Oh man, the series would be so much better. It would be salvageable. But I'm just like, I'm on book 10 right now. And because everything else in the book series is so good. Like the plot's good, the stakes are good, the characters, the side characters are really enjoyable and likable. And I keep tuning in. But I literally haven't been able to finish book 10. And I've gone back to it like 4 times. And every time I tune in, there'll be like another meeting. Another pointless meeting between characters. And here comes the main character whipping his big dick out and just wagging it around and just talking about, I've been through all this trauma. You need to respect me and treat me like a human being. It's like, dude, just shut up. Just shut up. All right. Sorry. We finally made it to the last book in this series, Dungeon Crawler Carl. Oh man. And you've probably seen a lot of book reviews for this already. This series is wild. I've finished every book in this series so far and I love it. Like, I'm hooked. Like move over, Primal Hunter. Carl needs a seat up here. I mean, it's just, it's so good. It's so good. And you know what? I want to say it's just as good as this series, but this series is finished and had such a good ending, and this series hasn't finished. And the romance isn't as good because there's not really any romance going on. There's a female character who's really engaging, but like, I don't know how to explain it. It's crazy. Matt Denneman just crushes this book series because it's such a goofy world, but it's also so sad, and not sad like these 2 books where they could have been fantastic books if the authors had just made the main character more likable, but sad as in like Joe Abercrombie best served cold sad. You know what I mean? Like gut-wrenching sad. Like it is just, it's crazy how goofy these characters are and how much the author makes you feel for them. Like it shouldn't be possible. Anyway, yeah, obviously, if you haven't listened to these top 3, you absolutely should, followed by this one. And then there's some others. So yeah, this concludes this video. If you want to see like other stupid tier lists, you want me to review a bunch of smut books and just make fun of them, like let me know, boys. I'm happy to serve.